We are learning Perek Halacha Yud, Hilchos Chametz U'Matzah. Rambam begins Hakol Chayov B'Hilchos Matzah Afilu Noshim V'Avodim. Everybody's chayav in Hilchos Matzah, even Noshim, women, who are usually exempt from a positive commandment which is time dependent, and Avodim, and slaves. We're talking about Eved Kanani, who also has only mitzvahs like a woman. So even though it's a mitzvah, it's a positive commandment which is time dependent, women are potter. What we find in Kedushin 34a. Here they're obligated, as we find in Sochim 43a. And the Gemara makes a statement. And Rabbi Menoach, the limit is in the Gemara 43b, because it says you should not Chometz, you should not eat Chometz. 7 days you'll eat matzah. There's a hekesh that it made it similar. That just like you're obligated not to eat Chometz, you're obligated to eat matzah. And everyone that's obligated not to eat Chometz, women as well, therefore they have to eat matzah. Now, because when it comes to negatives, we know they're forbidden, because it says Isha. We learned that from a pasuk in Bamidbar 5:6, that a man or a woman, when they do any avera, that they're obligated. So once they're obligated not to eat chometz, they're obligated to eat matzah, and an eved has the same law as a woman. Now the Magen Mishnah cites chagiga, that avodim is similar to noshim. In every mitzvah that noshim are obligated, avodim, knanim are also obligated. In mitzvahs asay shazman gromo, and noshim are potur, and avodim knanim are pturis. And since achilas matzah noshim are chayovos, they're obligated, so too slaves are obligated. Who has the mitzvah of teaching the child that he can't eat chometz? Now, Cotton, the Rambam says, who has come to the age of the ability to eat bread, mitzvahs, you have to teach him mitzvahs, you give him matzah. The Mishnah cites the Gemara in Sukkah 42b, that a cotton can eat a kazayas that's roasted from Pesach, then he can be numbered among the people who you slaughtered the Pesach for. What's the reason? It says a person according to his eating ability. Now, if Yudah says you don't make a korban pesach for him until he can know what he's eating. That means if he knows for sure it's food, you give him a stone and he throws it away. If you give him a nut, then he takes it. That's what it would seem. That somebody knows to do something, you have to teach him. And this rule is that a cotton who came to the age that he can do a mitzvah, you teach him to keep it. Because the Mishnah cites that Masechta Megillah, the Ran writes the name of the Ramban, that everyone that the obligation that a minor is chayav and mitzvahs b'rabbanon doesn't mean that he's obligated, because the child is never obligated, but even on things that are rabbanon, just that there's an obligation to teach him, and that father has to do. And he learns it from the Lashon Rambam. He doesn't say everybody has to teach him, or everyone's obligated to eat matzah, even though avodim miktanim, but rather akol chayovim. Everybody is obligated, and he mentions just noshim avodim. And separately he adds that a cotton that eats a kezayis, that's done to teach him that he should know in the future when he grows up. And this is obligations on his father. And so too, we find Hilchos Megillah, everybody's obligated, men, women, and we teach children to read it. That's the way the Rambam writes. And the Ran there is of the opinion that when it comes to the obligation of education, the Chacham require the cotton himself, that he's obligated with the mitzvahs b'rabbanan. But the Rambam's shita and the Ramban is that it's on the father's is the obligation, not on the child. Somebody who's sick or an elderly person that can't eat rakik shel matzah, it's too hard for him. doesn't have teeth. They know they didn't have dentists then, and maybe they had weak teeth. You can put the bread into water to make it easier for him to eat. And this we learned earlier, but it can't be falling apart. It can't be so soft that it falls apart by itself. Now, there are congregations, especially Hasidim, that are very careful not to eat matzah that was placed with water. And even for an elderly or a sick person, they don't soak matzah in water, but they put it in apple juice. And according to that, for sick people, and according to their minhag, it has to be without any water, because we know that Peirush HaMeir with mayim causes Chometz. Shulchan says a person can fulfill his obligation with matzah which was soaked, but as long as it doesn't fall apart. And Rambam says even in wine you can do it, you can soak it, like the Beis Yosef writes, where the Beis Yosef himself wrote it in Siman 461, the name of the Rekeach, but not to cook it and not in soup. For Bostoner Rebbe in the Rambam, it would seem only in water, but not with wine, that it takes away the taste of matzah, because water doesn't dilute the taste. So the Rebbe Weil says that even though you can dip the Pesach after it's roasted in juices, because the Pesach is a strong taste. Meat has a much stronger taste than matzah, but one shouldn't do so with matzah except for a sick person. And even with mayim, water, the Rif writes that you'd only permit it for an elderly or a sick person. And so this is regarding the mitzvahs matzah. And so the Achilles Kazayas. So it would seem from the Shulchan Aruch, the Gemara, that a person fulfills his obligation b'di'evet. Yoitza means if he did so. But to begin with, he should not soak the matzah. But this is whether the first Kazayas Rishon and also in the Afikoyman. We continue now in Perek Vav Halacha Aleph, and the Rambam begins with Divrei Soifrim Midrabanan she'ein maftirin achar matzos klum, that one does not eat after the matzos anything. We go below, the Maggid Mishnah cites the Mishnah Psochim 119b. What is maftirin? What does maftir mean? And we say maftirin actually at the end of the Sefer Torah. We read the maftir. The Rashbam says we don't say goodbye. You don't finish the meal of matzah with things other than matzah. After matzah, you don't leave anything else. You don't eat anything else. Afilu kloyes, even types of burnt roasted grains that were roasted on fire, vegoizim or nuts and other things, other of the like. But elo aval bisha ochel matzah, even though he ate matzah, he already fulfilled his obligation. And then he ate his meal, fruit and other things. He eats the matzah at the end, and then he stops his meal after the matzah. Doesn't eat anything else. This we find as well in Perek Ches Halacha Tes, that at the end, when they had the Korban Pesach, he would eat from the Korban Pesach, because that was the obligation. And today, we eat a Kazayas Matzah, you don't eat anything after it. In order, they should stop the meal when he has the taste of the Mosdos Pesach in his mouth, or the matzah, the taste of matzah in his mouth, that the achila is the mitzvah.